We are live.
Yay! I am old new dude, and he is.
Richard York, Asher's Trueborn son, and Chris the Crow is waving from the wall. It's this, oh, Mason lives. Yes, I might actually catch alive again. Yay! Good to have you here, Bob. Deck of cards says Bob arrives +1. Psychiatric excrement. Oh, yay! Weird Wednesdays. Bongs and popcorn ready. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Shall we continue with Toodles? So we've been reading Toodles Howland Reed post, and we got through the main post and we got through Appendix 1. But I actually have pointed a lot of people at Appendix 2 in terms of the bones of Ned Stark and some of the interesting history that is in this part. So I do think it's worth continuing.
Yeah, well, I
It's
mean, there are several theories about Ned's bones, so yeah,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think
I
we
think
can
this is
do
really good stuff about Ned's bones, especially. So I do think it's worth it's worth continuing here. What follows is okay. How many pawns?
it.
Yeah. When we're doing toodles, it's definitely it definitely could be helpful. Mother Rowan says hello, family.
Hey,
They've
mate.
just they'd added their these they added
Oh,
these numbers to
don't
people
forget
for
potato
comments, and they hadn't put them in the live stream comments before, and now they're putting them in the live stream comments too. Heck yeah. Toodles and bongs. Yep, yeah. It's if you're reading the Song of Ice and Toodles.wordpress.com, it's he's definitely at least as crazy as we are,
yeah,
and mostly in a good way.
right. Well, I mean, I don't think there's anything that you've sent my way, and I sent the first tools that you sent me. I forget the girl's name, but she's attached with gray area. Um, on
Alicia
Twitter. It might have been her or not, but I went ahead and sent that to
or Eyed
her.
Zebra.
I think
Those
I
are
was
the
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, her. Oh, I forgot what her name is. They call
yeah,
her something else, but I can't remember what it is. Sorry.
yeah. I mean, that was a
My
long
bong is
time ago.
psychedelic.
I mean, so I mean, but yeah, there's not a tools that you sent my way that I haven't really sunk my teeth in and went, yeah, that does sound pretty damn plausible. I think he's on the right track.
Yeah,
So yeah,
I was really skeptical of this idea that the R plus L, Danny's parents would be Arthur along with Rhaegar and Lyanna, but I've told you a few times, the more I look at the red sky, the more I'm like, he's doing something with the red sky and that child of three. It's I don't know, I don't
he
know.
definitely.
It could
I mean,
be. Cheers, mother.
as much research as George has put into the world of A Song of Ice and Fire,
Oh, there's no
he
question he knows the red sky, and
exactly. That's what I was going to
it's
say.
beyond like the interregnum. Like so, for those that don't know, the George's Thousand Worlds had the most important event in their history is probably what they call the interregnum. In Irish mythology, the interregnum is the 5-year gap before the red sky comes to power. He's a
Mhm.
product of incest. He engages in incest. He's the child of three fathers, and so when you got a character called the child of three who sure seems like there's references to Red Sky, it's like there's no way George doesn't know what he's doing. There's something called the interregnum, and it's like 5-year
Yeah.
gap before coming to power. Like, yeah, yeah, yeah. So anyway, that I was originally when I read his theory, I was like, I don't know about that. It's kind of out there, and then more I think about it, more I'm like, George could totally be doing that. Anyway, Appendix 2, Howland Reed and the Bones of Ned Stark. Um, he does.
Oh, on that subject, um, having two fathers, meaning the egg was fertilized by one and then refertilized by the second one. My theory that I was working on about the parasites that are acquired through fireworm blood that is inside the blood of Targaryens and their descendants. It's the worms that get seen when who rides uh
Oh yeah. The one that was
Arena. No, damn it. The girl that takes the black dread to
Araya.
Araya. I know
Araya.
it's
Aerea. Araya.
yeah. When she returns, the fire that's burning in her, and the worms with human faces on it. I think those are enlarged parasites that are inside the blood that is the glue that makes it kind of all work together for the dragons. Um, is also inside the Targaryens, and that's the worms that we're seeing when she returns. It, which is
The
like,
mother one says
yeah,
the fireworks are so scary.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, that extra push, that extra something that is in Targaryen blood, I think is parasites. That gives them somewhat immunity to diseases and all this kind of stuff because their blood kind of runs hot, kind of burns things out from hurting them. That could have gave the second father, which would be Rhaegar, his little swimmer, that much extra power into refertilizing the fertilized eggs. If that makes any sense.
All right.
So,
Yeah, we've definitely talked about that before, and it's it is an interesting theory, and that's what we're here to talk about. So,
yeah.
all right. Appendix 2, Howland Reed and the Bones of Ned Stark. Oh, this is funny because this is very relevant to the last chapter we did. We're going to get to right away here. What
Okay.
follows assumes you agree that Sir Shadrick is indeed Lord Howland Reed of Greywater Watch. Given that Shadrick rides a horse like Sansa's, and it's not just like Sansa's, right? It's like Dancer, it's like Dantos. So it's basically the three POVs that are descendants of Catelyn, Catelyn's uncle, and basically anybody who's trying to help Sansa or help people find Sansa, right? So it's Hyle, it's we went through them last time, right? It's
Right.
with one in addition with Rickard Riswell, which is why we said we got to pay attention to Rickard Riswell guy.
Yeah.
Howland
Well,
is everywhere.
they gave two names. It was Roger or Rickard, and with George, the
We're
second
going to
was
lean towards Rickard. Right? We're going to lean towards Rickard because it's probably a reference to the Starks and
yeah.
the fact that he's
Right.
serving. He is helping Sansa just as everybody else is, right? It's Sansa's full blooded siblings and the people who are basically helping Sansa or helping people to find Sansa.
Yeah, which we theorize that with the name Rickard, it is a Stark loyalist. He knows he was named for Rickard Stark. They have the love for Stark.
Right.
So yeah,
And so,
definitely keep an eye on that name going forward.
yeah, definitely. Rickard Riswell is our bet for which of them is Roger or Rickard. And anyway, the point is that given that Sadric rides a horse like Sansa's, right? As we've talked, it's not just Sansa. And tells Bran is looking for Sansa. Given his interactions with Elaine are sly and knowing, and see him catch her when she's falling. Seems like okay, that's a really good symbolism. He's there to catch her when she's falling. Yeah. Seems likely he is endeavoring to protect the daughter of his liege lord and friend, Ned Stark. Right. And we talked about the for love line that George loves to give you the real what's really going on and a pause and then distract you. For example, Varys is the one that tells Ned that it's the guy who looked good with moons and things. But right before that, he's describing Littlefinger, right?
Right.
So it's not that Ned jumps to the wrong conclusion and that Varys is trying to point him at Littlefinger. It's the author is telling you Littlefinger's the right answer, and then Varys points Ned at Sir Hugh.
Well, chances are Chadwick was there to catch her because he was close spying, listening.
Yeah, that's true, but it's also symbolism of him being there to catch her, right?
Right.
Trust the symbolism. Good evening, chat. Old News of Richard. Good to have you here, Christy.
Oh yeah.
And Bob and Mother Royne and and Eccentric Excrement and Lady Thistle and Deck of Cards and Chris Crow. It's a lot of the regulars and Bob's not exactly regular, but he's trying to be. It sounds like. He
We
wants to
appreciate
be. I understand that the schedule's getting in the way, Bob.
Oh, definitely. Our
Um,
time slot is not a normal one for live stream, so we do appreciate
sure.
those that have the time for
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And I think Kirsty, it's like 2 a.m. or something, right?
Goodness.
But what exactly is Hallen doing when Brienne first meets him on the road to Duskendale? When he's supposedly escorting a merchant named Highbold, his 6 serving men, and their wagon. Are you perfectly timed for my lunch? Says the Centric X-Man. Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. Lunch hour live stream here. I think I figured out this lemon thing. Littlefinger and all the lemon cakes. They're referencing the golden apples. Rohan Weber's line. All the Lannister families. They're getting ready to squish lemons. Huh. Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
So there's a quote here. 3 hours later, Brienne and company came up upon another party struggling toward Duskendale. Merchant and his serving men, accompanied by yet another hedge knight. The merchant rode a dappled gray mare, whilst his servants took turns pulling his wagon. 4 labored in the traces, as the other 2 walked beside the wheels. When they heard the sound of horses, they formed up around the wagon with quarterstaffs of ash at the ready. The merchant produced a crossbow, the knight a blade. "You forgive me if I am suspicious," called the merchant, "but the times are troubled, and I have only good Sir Shadrick to defend me. Who are you?" "A portentous, I'll say miserly merchant on a grey mare."
Well, also, if you stop and think about it, I don't know if we said this before or not, with Chadrick being a hedge knight, Howland Reed would probably follow the old gods and would refuse an anointment or being anointed knight. So it would make sense that Howland Reed would only be a hedge knight if he's posing as a knight. Does that make sense? He
Yeah,
wouldn't allow.
well, anyone around Brienne is. So one of the points of chestnut is around all the chestnuts around Brienne is probably reference to Duck. Dunk and his horse Chestnut as well, right? But
Right.
of course, with George, it's always all of the above. But so the hedge knight, all these hedge knights are part of kind of tying Brienne to the hedge knights as well. I think that.
Speaking of Dunk, with the which I have not watched the trailer yet for the Duncan, the Night of Seven Kings Duncan Egg, with the spotlight being on Duncan Egg, do you think it would light a fire and we'd actually get another Duncan Egg, probably the She Wolves of Winterfell, before we get
I don't know. They've already announced they're going to do 3 seasons, and my understanding is the contracts are done on a 3-season basis
no.
and so forth.
I'm just saying that it would ignite the
Oh,
creative
maybe.
juices in George.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and yeah, or maybe it gets him thinking about some of the parallels and references in the main series and gets him to add some more to it as well. It's another possibility.
there was some
The fact that
parallel.
I agree that having him focus on another on writing, because my understanding is that he's going to be working with the writing team as he did for the first season of House of the Dragon and for the first 4 seasons of Game of Thrones. Anyway.
Yeah. I would not be upset if we got another Duncan Egg story. I mean, that would not bother me
Absolutely.
a bit.
No, absolutely.
Especially if it's the She Wolves of
Yeah,
Winterfell.
and then that itself could help to stir creative juices. And like
Right.
LML says, you want George to be working on other things because that he may get inspired. When somebody's stuck, you want them to be especially if it's related things, right? Like House of
That's what I was
Dragon.
getting ready to say. I mean, him being his head in A Song of Ice and Fire, the planet, the world of it, is a good thing, without a doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. In world, Highbold and his men may be what they seem. Highbold's gray mare is a textual match for the gray mare of the merchant from Clash of Kings Arya 2, who, like Highbold, is a cheapskate. Highbold is as miserly as he is fearful, and he's very fearful. The next morning, a sleek merchant on a gray mare reined up by Yorn and offered to buy his wagons and everything in them for a quarter of their worth. I wonder if it's supposed to be Highbold.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It sounds
Knowing
like
George, he may have been trying to bring the same character back, and he hadn't given him a name before. Yeah. Anyway, Heibold may thus be unaware that Sir Shadrach is Howland Reed, but even if in-world Heibold is no one truly, so to speak, the name Heibold is a metatextual hint to readers that his escort, Sir Shadrach, is in fact transporting the bones of Ned Stark, which he intercepted at Greywater Wash after Catelyn summoned the North in a Clash of Kings to the Quiet Isle. How so? History class! And this is quite the history. In order to explain how the name Heibold could possibly connote that Shadrach is moving Ned Stark's bones in the Feast for Crows Brienne 1, we need to talk about the real-world history of Great Britain during the so-called Heptarchy, or Seven Kingdoms period, specifically as regards an Anglo-Saxon king of the north named Oswald and a saintly monk named, you guessed it, Heibold. Sources for what follows include Wikipedia entries for Heptarchy, Kingdom of Northumbria, Humber, Kingdom of Lindsey, Fens, Isle of Axholme, Oswald of Northumbria, Ostrith, Oswy, Osric of Dara, Oswine of Dara, Ethelred, Bardeney Abbey, and Heibold. St. Bede's Ecclesiastical History of the English Nation, BardneyParishChurches.org.uk, and linksheritage.org. Okay, so he's got
with
lots
all
of
those
Wikipedia entries.
odd
Plus some other.
names, the OS names in that list.
And he's got more coming up. The Kettle Blacks, absolutely.
I lost the name right there.
Which are fake hedge knights, which could be just part of that could be to tie the idea that this isn't really a hedge knight here, right?
Right.
The Seven Kingdoms of Anglo-Saxon Great Britain. In the 7th century, much of the island of Great Britain was divided into something that will sound very familiar to readers of The Song of Ice and Fire. 7 kingdoms ruled by 7 kings, an arrangement later historians dubbed the Heptarchy. These 7 Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, as well as other smaller petty kingdoms and subkingdoms, later consolidated into the Kingdom of England, much as the 7 kingdoms of Westeros were consolidated under Targaryen rule. Northumbria, the north of the Heptarchy. One of the 7 kingdoms of the Heptarchy was Northumbria, itself forged around 604 from the kingdoms Dara and Bernicia. Northumbria was, as the name implies, the northernmost kingdom in Anglo-Saxon Great Britain, just as the north was the northernmost of Westeros' 7 kingdoms. Northumbria was also home to Hadrian's Wall, which GRM acknowledges inspired the Wall of Westeros. The Humber, the salt spear of the Heptarchy. The name Northumbria came from the Anglo-Saxon for the people north of the Humber. Technically a tidal estuary, the Humber is in effect a long inlet off the North Sea, easily navigable by deep-sea vessels, much like the Salt Spear is a long inlet off the Sunset Sea, navigable by iron-borne longships. During the Heptarchy, the Humber was seen as forming the natural boundary between Northumbria and the southern kingdoms, much as the Salt Spear helps define the North proper in A Song of Ice and Fire. Lindsey, the neck of the Heptarchy. On the southern coast bank of the Humber, across from Northumbria, lay the petty kingdom of Lindsey. Like the neck of Westeros, much of Lindsey was marshland and or prone to flooding. Part of Lindsey lay in what is today known as the Fens, a now drained but naturally marshy region of England. Call it Fen is the name of a noble house of the neck. In one particularly marshy area of Lindsey, towns and villages were built on areas of dry raised ground surrounded by swamp, which sounds a lot like giant craneaux. Consider this passage from an 1891 writing extolling the progress it had made draining the fever-haunted marshes of Lincolnshire, site of medieval Lindsey. I fancy that many people still picture Lincolnshire to themselves as the region of bogs and swamps, of fever-haunted marshes and plague-infested lowlands. But now, in the parts of Lindsey, there are no fens, their place being taken by the Cars, which were once wide swamps, bordering the course of a small stream of river. That's from Legends of the Cars. And I assume that that's another term for a crannoc. Balfour's implicit before picture of Lincolnshire and Lindsey sounds exactly like the neck, with its fever river, bogs, swamps, and wetlands. On medieval Lindsey's northern border lay an important monastery called Barrow. Lo and behold, on the next northern border lies the Barrowlands, whose men are both A, textually associated with the Crannogmen and the Lindseyish neck. Others are waiting to join them all along the King's Road, Barrow Knights and Crannogmen. And evidently, and unusually for the North, knights. Knights take holy vows, just as monks of Barrow surely did. So it is interesting, that the Barrows are referred to as knights. Affirming the clear sense that there's an intentional analogy between the neck and Lindsey, and hence between the North and Northumbria, is the fact that by the time Dara and Bernicia were combined to form Northumbria, the kingdom of Lindsey had long been subjugated and quasi-absorbed by Dara. thus prefiguring the subjugation of the Marsh Kings by Winterfell and the absorption of the Neck into the political north, despite the fact that the lands of the Crannogmen are largely south of Moat Cailin, the Fever River, and the Salt Spear, just as Dara and later Northumbria ruled Lindsey, even though it was south of the Humber. King Oswald of Northumbria, the White Blade. Ooh, the White Blade. There's a name for you.
Yeah, my ears perked up as soon as you said that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wait a minute. I missed this stuff. 10 minutes past midnight. Okay, so we're just at midnight. Okay.
Yeah.
Cheers, Kirsty.
Yeah.
The prologue, 3 horses. King Oswald of Northumbria, the White Blade. Yeah, we said that. King, later Saint Oswald, ruled Northumbria from 634 to 642, turning it into the most powerful of the 7 kingdoms in Britain. Oswald was known as White Blade, which recalls the original version of the Stark's heirloom sword, Ice, which predated the existence of Valyrian steel by centuries and was thus surely a literal white blade like the Danes' white sword Dawn. Or might have been Dawn, if you, as LML would argue. Bishop Aidan, the Septon Maribald of the Heptarchy. King Oswald was a Christian.
You said that, I do believe that Dawn was the original house
Ice.
sword for Stark. Yeah.
Or that Ice is specifically a creation to honor Dawn, or however you want to view it, right? So one or the other. Either way.
Theories, Dawn is the original.
Either way, the point is that Ice is supposed to be a reference to Dawn.
Right. Or that it was actually an ice sword from White Walker was the original, because the theory is there's White Walker blood in House Stark.
Okay.
And
sure.
veins.
Yeah, I could see that as the one alternative to it being related to Dawn.
I give shout outs to either side of theories. It doesn't bother
me.
me.
I like that one too. I like both theories. King Oswald was a Christian convert, and he used his power to convert the pagan people of his realm to Christianity. The first bishop brought in by Oswald to effect this policy was an austere man who took a severe approach to spreading the word of God, which sounds much like the current High Sparrow, although those particular adjectives also remind me of the adjective stark. But anyway, his harsh approach failed. He was replaced by Bishop Aidan, who sounds a lot like Septon Maribald. Aidan traveled ceaselessly throughout the countryside, spreading the gospel to both the Anglo-Saxon nobility and to the socially disenfranchised, including children and slaves. Like Maribald, Aidan gave people first the milk of gentle doctrine, easily digested. Here think of Maribald speaking to Pod of the cobbler. And he delighted in distributing immediately among the poor whatsoever was given him by the kings or rich men of the world. He was wont to traverse both town and country on foot, never on horseback. St. Bede.
Yep.
Again, this sounds exactly like Maribald happily giving away his beloved oranges, feeding 2 morsels to dog for every one he ate himself, and walking until his feet turned hard as horn.
If I didn't know you were talking about somebody else, I would have.
You would have assumed it was Septon Maribald, absolutely. Lindisfarne, Holy Island, the quiet isle of the Heptarchy. And where did King Oswald establish Bishop Aidan's seat? On the island of Lindisfarne, also known simply as Holy Island, a tidal island off the northeast coast of England. Holy Island is the obvious inspiration for the Quiet Isle of Westeros. Just Quiet Isle is a tidal island that can only be accessed by carefully following the path of faith across the mudflats. So is Holy Island, quote, accessible most times at low tide by crossing sand and mudflats, which are covered with water at high tides. These sand and mudflats carry an ancient pilgrim's path. Warning signs urge victims walking to the island to keep to the marked path, check tide times and weather carefully, and to seek local advice if in doubt. The similarities don't end there. Both islands are famous for their mead. St. Aidan's Winery is the home of the world-famous Lindisfarne mead. Lindisfarne mead is a unique alcoholic fortified wine manufactured here on the holy island of Lindisfarne. Our mead and cider are far famed, Brother Narbert of Quiet Isle. And for healing, Holy Island was known as Medcot, a name derived from the Latin for healing, and St. Aidan's successor there, St. Cuthbert, was a renowned healer dubbed the Wonder Worker of Britain, recalling the Quiet Isle's elder brother. The 7 men have blessed our elder brother with healing hands. He's restored many a man to health that even the maesters could not cure, and many a woman too. Right, that's supposed to, and part of that's supposed to be a hint that he has spent a lot of time talking to the Hound, and he's a magic healer in a fantasy series. What do you think happened there? But anyway,
I do not know.
not. We don't need to. We don't need to. I mean, I think pretty much everyone in the fandom is united that he healed Sandor. But anyway,
yeah, without a doubt.
yeah. Two kings of the Norse heads impaled and displayed. Having provided for the establishment of the Quiet Isle inspiring monastery in Holy Island and the popularization of Christianity, King Oswald of Northumbria, Great Britain's King of the North, King of the North, the King of the North, supposed to be King in the North, but close enough, was killed by the pagan King Penda of neighboring Mercia, the largest and most powerful of the southern kingdoms of Great Britain, in 642. King Penda had King Oswald beheaded, impaled Oswald's head on a stake, and put it on display, much as King Joffrey has would-be King of the North Ned Stark's head cut off, impaled on a spike, and displayed above the Red Keep. So the bones of two beheaded northern kings. Oswald became a saint after his death. Both recorded history and popular folklore tell an interesting story about what befell his bones that I believe GRM is very clearly riffing on in A Song of Ice and Fire. One which ultimately suggests that some, if not all, of Ned Stark's remains have not made it through the neck, but are instead being taken by Sir Shadrach to the Quiet Isle when we first meet Shadrach in Feast for Crows Grand 1. In 675 or 679, Oswald's niece, Queen Osthryth, decided to move some of Oswald's...
Just a quick thing. I counted the OS names in the list of names for A Song of Ice and Fire. They're like 25, 27 of them. So he likes that.
Oh, yeah. Decided to move some of Oswald's holy bones via wagon to an abbey in Bardney, which was located in the swampy, neck-like kingdom of Lindsey. When the wagon bearing Oswald's bones arrived at Bardney Abbey one evening, the monks there famously refused to open their closed doors to it due to lingering resentment over Oswald, a foreign king of Northumbria, having exercised dominion over their kingdom of Lindsey. Now, keeping in mind that Ned and Oswald seem to be mirroring one another in death, notice the metaphor GRM uses when he foregrounds the question of where Ned had come to rest. It made Catelyn wonder where Ned had come to rest. The Silent Sisters had taken his bones north, escorted by Hallis Mullen and a small honor guard. Had Ned ever reached Winterfell to be interred beside his brother Brandon in the dark crypts beneath the castle?
Oh,
or did the door...
The six guards with ash staffs are the honor guard.
Ah. And a small honor guard. Okay, I like that. And of course, ash is supposed to remind us of Ashara Dane and Ashra the Dione and so forth, right?
Yep.
Or did the door... See, Triple Dragons, episode 1. Or did the door slam shut?
I forgot to go. I'm going to be honest. I told you I was going to rewatch all 7 episodes. I did not do that, but I will do it this weekend. All
right. Or did the door slam shut at Moat Cailin before Hal and his sisters could pass? So Catelyn fears Ned's bones ran into a closed door in the neck, just like the famously closed doors at Bardney and Lindsey. The motifs of the real-world legend are unmistakably reworked in A Song of Ice and Fire. In legend, it was the men of a holy order located in swampy neck-like Lindsey who literally closed their literal doors to Oswald's bones because Oswald had reigned over them as a foreign king. The Song of Ice and Fire is the woman of a holy order who were moving Ned's bones when the figurative door to the north, Moat Cailin, located in the swampy Lindsey-like neck, was figuratively slammed shut by the forces of a foreign king, Balon's Iron Man. Given the parallels and the fact that Catelyn foregrounds the question of where Ned had come to rest, I'm certain that the answer to Catelyn's last question is yes. Did the door slam shut at Moat Cailin? Yep. I would also tell you that Catelyn, while I love Alicia Patience and her Little Mermaid, the real Little Mermaid story, which is a very much a horror story about like somebody getting their voice taken away and so forth.
right.
The other myth that I would associate with Catelyn is the white trout. The white trout is a really interesting myth about someone who's waiting for their waiting for bones, basically.
Okay.
A heavenly light and always open doors. Here's the thing: the doors of Bardney Abbey didn't stay closed for long. Later that night, the monks of Bardney Abbey saw a bright pillar of light reaching from the wagon up to heaven. They saw this as a miracle and threw open their doors, welcoming Oswald's bones after all. Over them, they placed his banner made of gold and purple, recalling the disposition of Ned's bones at River Run. They laid Ned out on the trestle table and covered him with a banner, the white banner of House Stark with its gray direwolf sigil. The monks vowed to henceforth always leave their doors open. Some sources say they went so far as to remove their gator doors. This led to the saying that the doors were never locked in Bardney. And even today, if you leave a door open in Lincolnshire, you might be asked, "Do you come from Bardney?" Today, there's a coffee shop in Bardney called the Open Door. GRM salutes this bit of folklore in Song of Ice and Fire, not just by having Catelyn ask, "Did the door slam shut at Moat Cailin?" but also by having St. Oswald analog Ned Stark say, "My door is always open to the Night's Watch," Father said. That is the only instance of anyone saying anything about always leaving the door open in the canon. Wait, does the fact that Oswald's bones passed through the door after all mean that Ned's bones have made it past Moat Cailin? No, ma'am. I've omitted two crucial pieces of history which suggest that as Sir Shadrick, Howland Reed escorts Ned's remains to the Quiet Isle. Oswald's skull and the Holy Isle. First, Queen Osthryth didn't move all of St. Oswald's remains to Bardney Abbey. For St. Bede, Oswald's brother, King Oswy, lots of Oz's, buried Oswald's head in the Church of Lindisfarne, that is, at the monastery on Holy Island, Great Britain's version of Westeros' Quiet Isle. Quiet Isle is, of course, home to an ostentatiously foregrounded graveyard and gravedigger. If the decapitated, formally impaled and displayed head of the King of Northumbria was buried on Holy Island, a tidal island famed for mead and healing, might not Howland Reed move the remains of the decapitated, formally impaled, and displayed head of the theoretical King of the North, Ned Stark, to Quiet Isle, a tidal island famed for mead and healing, whether with or without Ned's other remains? As to why Ned's skull might be important, there are many reasons to believe skulls are used to create psychic networks in A Song of Ice and Fire. See the golden skulls of the Golden Company and the Whispers. Those are interesting references to this
I do
concept.
like that a lot. Hey, could the grave that the Hound was digging could that be?
No, I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking the same thing. Could he literally be burying Ned? That's what I was thinking too.
We're about to tie everything together and
Yeah,
because they didn't
I was
see
thinking that
anybody
too.
dead. They didn't
Right.
hear about anybody recently dying. So I mean,
No, I was thinking the exact same thing.
all right, we've been hanging out too
Good
long.
call. Good call. No, I should have mentioned it. You good call. Good call. Glad you did.
Yeah, I have my
Saint
moment.
Highbald. Absolutely. Many. St. Highbald and King St. Oswald's bones. Second, GRM decided to name the merchant escorted by Sir Shadrick Highbald. A St. Highbald was the abbot of Bardney Abbey, the very abbey which closed, then opened its doors to Oswald's bones. Oh, wow. That is good.
Yeah.
Around 675 to 679. St. Highbald was active between 664 and 690.
Shadrick wouldn't even need Marybald to get over to the Quiet Isle because he can walk on mud. He doesn't need to know the path.
Yeah, that's true. Bob Laserload. Lemons are yellow, and both yellow and lemon were used as synonyms for gold in history. Okay. Tree equals family, feline, and of course the in a series named for I'm blanking on the guy who wrote Fire and Ice poem that Ice and Fire. Anyway, his poem about the Starks is the one about the family tree, right? Anyway, Danny speaks of her and Targ's golden blood. Lemon tree equals golden bloodline tree. Yeah, that's excellent.
Okay. Oh yeah, I like that.
Then in ancient times, apples were referred to lemons, so golden lemon apples. Rowan Goldtree wraps apple in her hair and plants it, tying to Castle Rock and Children of the Forest. And Avalon in myth was known as the Isle of Apples, links to Otherworld.
Okay.
And isn't that also the name of the novel that George was writing before he got inspired to write Song of Ice and Fire? I think it was called Avalon. Avalon, I think it was called.
Oh, I do not know.
Oh, so he was in the middle of writing Avalon. He put aside because
always comes with knowledge, especially knowledge that was out of my wheelhouse to look up.
And I think Littlefinger, with all the lemon cake references, etc. Definitely ties into all that. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the Isle of Apples. Or yes, the Isle of Apples. Sorry, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Littlefinger ties into a bunch of crap too.
And the story was, yeah, that's what I was saying. The story was really probably called Avalon. Well, he was working on,
Right.
Avalon was actually a Thousand Worlds story. But yeah, he was definitely working on Avalon when he was inspired to write,
I mean, that's a really, I mean,
Brant's one.
both Kirsty and Bob, man, that's boom, light bulb. I mean, that's nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was pretty sure Avalon was I'm fairly certain that Avalon was the name of the book he was working on, and he was inspired to write Brand's first chapter.
Not only the world of Song of Ice and Fire, the knowledge that George had to acquire in all of his searching. I know he's a
Mm-hmm.
history buff and everything, but I mean that is just, it blows my mind everything that he's looked up.
This ties into Water Maidens as well as King Arthur. Sees them when he goes to Avalon. Yep.
Nice.
St. Highbald and King St. Oswald's bones. Lemons being bitter could tie to bitter steel, and also the bittersweet ending.
Yep.
But they're not bitter; they're sour. Lemons are sour. It's the opposite of bitter. They're highly acidic and sour. Bitter is basic.
I don't know.
Other world salt in the story, which could imply that bitter steel is supposed to be the opposite of, which might imply that it's sort of sour versus bitter kind of thing. So the other side is the lemon side. I don't know. Anyway, second, Jerem decided to name the merchant escorted by Sir Shadrick Highbold. We did that, right? St. Highbold was active between that's where I was, between 664 and 690. Logically, then, St. Highbold was involved with the disposition of King Oswald's bones. If you doubt Jerem names Shadrick's merchant after Sir Highbold, consider that Shadrick describes Highbold using exactly two words, the one that I call miserly and fearful, whereas St. B describes St. Highbold using exactly two words, continent and holy. Miserly and continent are basically synonyms for abstemious, while a holy man is a God-fearing man. Okay. Consider this too. When a song of ice and fire is Highbold parks his wagon outside an inn for the night, the verbiage reads like a definite wink to the legend of the heavenly light that shone when Oswald's wagon was left outside for the night at Barty Abbey, complete with a coy reference to the fanfare of divine trumpets. Highbold was for stopping too and bid his men to leave the wagon near the stables. Warm yellow light shone through the diamond-shaped panes of the inn's windows, and Brienne heard a stallion trumpet at the scent of her mare. Oh, wow.
That's
Wow,
sweet.
that's pretty sneaky. That's pretty
Yeah.
sneaky. Yeah. And some, by naming Shadrick's...
I doubt it just because nobody watches these except for our few friends, but we appreciate. I'm looking at that like, man, these guys are crazy. No, I agree with what the man's saying.
Kirsty is no green apple. Right, and like I said, Toodles might be crazy, but he's crazy the way we're crazy.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I just picture him.
There's no way this isn't true.
I bought blue.
How many of these has George done that nobody's found? Where there isn't somebody who keyed off of the words that like Toodles and figured out what George is doing. How many of these little things has he planted that we've missed?
Yeah.
Tons.
I
I guarantee it.
You ever see that, like the what is it? It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where the guy has the yarn on the wall connecting all that stuff. Well, I was going to do a spoof of that. I bought blue yarn. I was going to get it. I had maps onto cork boards. I had cork boards with pages or what I wrote down, copied pictures I drew, a dry eraser board that had all this kind of stuff that was going to be on it, and I ended up scrapping the idea it was just for a video. It was going to be a short one, but I just thought it was going to be funny. But it just ended up being for a short video meant to be kind of a spoof and funny,
Mm-hmm.
it ended up being way too much work. I was like, no, never mind. But I still might do it though.
Fair.
I
Fair.
still have the yarn, but it was blue yarn because of blue roses.
All right. Makes sense. In sum, by naming Shadrach's merchant after St. Hybold, GRM hints at the presence of the bones of St. Oswald analog Ned Stark. Based on their location, direction of travel, and the fact that Oswald's skull went to Lindisfarne, I'm convinced that Shadrach, aka Howland Reed, is at minimum taking Ned's skull to the Quiet Isle. Once there, he joins forces with the elder brother, aka Sir Morgarth. Together, they take ship for the Vale to seek service with Littlefinger, father of Elaine Stone. Serving men. There are several more hints that Shadrach is moving Ned's remains hidden in the description of Hybold, his men, and his
They're
wagon.
working on a psychic network, and I'm thinking what I think about Littlefinger being in the category of that is another person that could be in, even though people have bad opinions and Littlefinger's the world's worst. We could all be wrong. His actions make us doubt him, hate him. But with George, black is white, white is black. Until you find out the motivations behind the moves, because without those moves, other things wouldn't have been put in place that helps the story, helps us fight the Dawn. If it wasn't for Littlefinger, John wouldn't be at the wall.
So, Pod pointed us recently at a your Westeros guy YouTube video. So this your Westeros guy seems like he might be worth checking out, by the way.
Okay.
And he's arguing that Littlefinger did not want Joffrey to kill Ned. That Littlefinger has to be the one that hired Jaqen H'ghar, and that his target has to be Ned. That he has to have wanted Ned not to be executed and to have been killed by Jaqen H'ghar. He walks through like, well, why would Jaqen be there? Does it really make any sense? Well, it makes perfect sense if he's there to take out Ned. Well, who would hire him to take out Ned? Well, who's been hinted at as negotiating with the faceless men, who has ties to Bravos, who has access to the treasury? It's not Cersei, it's Littlefinger.
Right? How expensive it is to
he's clearly been negotiating with them, right?
Right.
And so then
he wants King's Landing's hands free of it, but he doesn't want Ned.
That's the argument. That's the argument.
So Ned in the north. He doesn't want Ned.
Anyway, my point being, it could be that some of the things that we think Littlefinger's guilty of that he actually isn't, is my point. There's George loves to plant seeds in multiple directions, and he made a speech planting seeds in multiple directions there. Kirsty has no green apple. Sorry, I'm a little behind live. About Mud, I'm almost certain that Hot Pie, who gets called Mud Pie in the same chapter, is responsible for slowing Yorn's progress by trapping him in mud for an afternoon.
Is he talking about me when I said Howland Reed could run across the mud to get to the Quiet Isle?
It could be where he is at, yeah. Also, Hot Pie turns Pie into an R and you get other. You also get HR at his name if you put this from this root combination. Huh.
So,
okay.
Okay, I get it. HT.
I'm saying it's almost other. Hot Pie is like.
I see what he's saying there.
Fat Pie from other.
Yeah.
I don't know. Oh, I see. He's saying it's a mix up of it. Well, not quite, but anyway.
George, never know.
Yeah. Serving men. There are several more hints that Shadow's moving Ned's remains hidden in descriptions of Hybold's men in his wagon. Read refers to Hybold's 6 serving men. We repeatedly see serving men involved with moving corpses. When they found a body, the kindly man would say a prayer, make certain life had fled, and Arya would fetch the serving men whose task was to carry the dead down to the vaults. 2 serving men were carrying off the dead dog's carcass. When the serving men arrived to bear the corpse away, the blind girl followed them. Okay, so he often has the term serving men used to refer to people who carry corpses. Okay. Whether
Yeah.
Highbold's serving men are doing the same or merely there is textual nod to the fact that Shadrick is doing so, I'm not sure. Okay. And your argument is that they are the honor guard, and they are, in
Yeah, I
fact,
mean, it's a possibility.
happily
I mean,
carrying
yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I think that strengthens that argument, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, I
The
like
fact that
that
serving men is
George
used.
tries to tie everything.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a like with the high vault. I mean, the gray horse. I mean, tying it into
Yeah, great.
that is
Yeah, great man.
exactly what it was before that wanted to
Yeah,
buy
yeah, yeah.
supplies. I mean, George does that, and I love it.
Well, I wondered if he was going to talk about this. Quarterstaffs of Ash. I think I probably vaguely remember that he did talk about this. Highball's serving men wield quarterstaffs of ash. The fact that the quarterstaffs are ash is a clue that Ned's bones are present, as ash is the wood used by Hallis Mullen, the very men Catelyn charges with escorting Ned's bones to fly House Stark's standard. Hallis Mullen went before them through the gate, carrying the rippling white banner of House Stark atop a high standard of gray ash. The term quarterstaff is only used a handful of other times in the canon. All but once it refers to Septon Maribald's quarterstaff. Maribold, who, remember, is so very akin to Bishop Aidan of England's Quiet Isle-esque Holy Island, uses his quarterstaff to probe the path of faith that approaches the Quiet Isle, where I believe Shadrick is taking Ned's remains when we first meet him. The path of faith was a crooked one, Brienne could not help but note. Though the island seemed to rise to the northeast where they left the shore, Septon Maribald did not make directly for it. Instead, he started due east toward the deeper waters of the bay, which shimmered blue and silver in the distance. The soft brown mud squished up between his toes. As he walked, he paused from time to time to probe ahead with his quarterstaff. The only other quarterstaffs in our story were wielded by novice septons in a passage that also mentions Sir Osfrid, brother to Osmond, who's sometimes referred to by mistake as Oswald, a la King St. Oswald. And the bones the sparrows had piled outside the Sept of Baelor, the very same bones of holy men Brienne had passed on the road just before she meets Shadrick and Highbold.
Mm-hmm.
Boblis lives, yes. And there are 9 sisters who live in Avalon. It makes me think of the 9 free cities, being the 9 daughters of Valeria. I don't know if there's a link there or not, and I like that.
I like it too.
Ooh, that's good, says Bob.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, it is. So the bones of holy men Brandon passed on the road just before she meets Shadrick. They descended from the litter upon Blessed Baelor's statue. The queen was pleased to see that the bones and filth had been cleaned away. Sir Osford had told it true. The crowd was neither as numerous nor as unruly as the sparrows had been. They stood about in small clumps, gazing solemnly at the doors of the great sept, where a line of novice septons had been drawn up with quarterstaffs in their hands. The way Highbold's serving-men responded to Brienne's approach. When the serving-men heard the sound of horses, they formed up around the wagon with quarterstaffs of ash at the ready. Huh, yeah, it does make it sound like they're guarding something holy, doesn't it?
Right.
And that recalls the small honor guard that was to accompany Ned's bones, just as you said. So yeah, he was getting to that.
Okay.
Thus, whether the serving men know about Howland and or Ned's bones and or are actually the guards, symbolically they help convey that what Shadrick is up to in this scene. I think they're probably actually the guards, is most likely, and that really it is all of his bones and not just the skull here. A wagon and a wain. We see Highbolt's men laboring in the traces of their wagon mere pages after we see the future High Sparrow and other pilgrims verbatim in the traces of a wain, i.e. a wagon, piled high with bones, which sounds an awful lot like Saint's bones, a la St. Osmond's.
Hey, do you
These are
think
the
we'll
bones.
see the honor guard, if they are the honor guard, those 6 in with Shadrick, or do you think we'll hear about those 6 later in the story coming back from their honor guard duties and actually give the house names and who they are, if that's true? Because that's the only way we're going to find out.
Can you
Is
guys explain
if we
why
see
some
the
people?
6 honor guard later, and
Yeah,
find out they
I agree.
were the honor
I
guard.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys explain why some people think the High Sparrow is Howland Reed? Probably the H. Can you guys explain why some people think that the High Sparrow is Howland?
I,
I don't know if
I,
that's a, I don't know
I
what that
don't
means,
know
but
that. I mean, I've heard the theory, but
I,
I've actually not.
yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's just Howland Reed should be somebody, and he's short. That's about all I can figure out. I mean, I've heard more takedowns of it than I've heard arguments in favor of it, to be honest. So I mostly only hear the opposite arguments. So I'm not good at making that argument.
Yeah. Like I said, I've heard the theory plenty of times. I haven't watched any videos on it. I haven't dove in it because it's not one of those.
I've pretty much every time I've heard it, it's been somebody who's throwing shade at it.
Right.
So that's why I don't think I have good arguments for it. I do think it largely is the correct idea that Howland Reed should be in the story and that he should be somebody that we've seen, and it's a small
Yeah.
character, and but
I mean,
that's about all I can say.
when I heard the theory, it was not a rabbit hole that just seemed inviting for me. It was
Just
like,
doesn't
yeah.
sound right. There's too many
Right.
things wrong with it. Yeah.
Now, High Sparrow being was it Balon Greyjoy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you told it to me.
And that comes from Toodles, by the way.
Okay, yeah. I mean, you're my Toodles guide.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm about 40% on that one, to be honest. But
Yeah, I'm kind of
I can
maybe
get
I'm pretty much 50-50 on it. I'm like, yeah, it
there.
could be it's just a fun thing that's there that he's never actually going to reveal.
Right.
But it does seem like he's described basically the same guy, right? And Toodles just nailed the fact that yeah, these are basically the same description, with subtle hints that at the heights of the two men being identical.
Mhm.
So in some Middle Eastern places, the little finger is also known as a sparrow. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, George seems to know everything. So
Yeah.
these are the bones of holy men murdered for their faith. They served the seven even unto death. Some starved, some were tortured. Sons have been despoiled, maids and mothers raped by godless men and demon worshippers. Even silent sisters have been molested. Our mother above cries out in her anguish. It is time for all anointed knights to forsake their worldly masters and defend our holy faith. Come with us to the city if you love the seven. Notice the future High Septon is recruiting, but Brienne isn't moved to join him, where she's happy to travel with Marigold, recalling King St. Oswald's first severe but unsuccessful bishop. Jerem's little joke is that while a wagon heads one way, openly piled high with holy bones and surrounded by righteous holy folk, the bones of St. Oswald analog Ned Stark are on a wagon headed the other way, right under our noses, in the company of a hedge knight, a merchant, and some servants. I like that.
Yeah.
And George loves to do that sort of thing, yeah. Connected by wire. I do wonder whether the text insists an association of Shadrach with wire. Sir Shadrach was a wiry, fox-faced man. I would do the same if she were my daughter, said the last knight, a short, wiry man with a wry smile, pointed nose, and bristly orange hair. Might not by winking at his transportation of Ned's skull, given that the only time we see it, we're told is attached to his other bones with fine silver wire. To be clear, wiry literally means wire-y. That is the actual etymology of the term. Yeah. I have big bones. Oh, no. Oh. Finally, check out the authorial wink to Shattuck's real business when Highbald converses with Creighton. The roads are full of drunken fools and despoiled maidens. As to portly knights, it's hard for any honest man to keep his belly round when so many lack for food. Though your Sir Creighton is not hungered, it would seem. I have big bones, Sir Creighton insisted. Actually, Creighton, it's Shadrach who has the big bones. Lord Eddard Stark's bones. Yeah, he has to have the actual bones. Those are the honor guard. Those are the guard. That's why we can't find them anywhere. That's why they've never shown up, even though there's a whole honor guard with them. Because George has shown us where they are. That's what's going on. Yep. The Oz names of history and the Song of Ice and Fire. Before I wrap up, I need to talk about an elephant in the room. The Oz named Kettleblacks, Oswell, Osford, Osney, and Osmond, are pretty clearly nodding to King St. Oswald, his predecessor Osric, his successors Oswy and Oswine, and his niece Othryth, and also to King Osmond, a king of one of the other seven kingdoms of the Heptarchy, who will join me with another Oswald and an Oslac. I believe we can now explain why A Storm of Swords mistakenly calls Osmond Oswald twice. It's because the A Song of Ice and Fire O's names, among other things, are riffing on a history centered on King St. Oswald. But I'm not sure that Jerome simply became confused because of this and erred, as we've been led to believe. Might Jaime's and Tyrion's infamous mistakes be intentional? Might this be a storm of swords coyly tipping us off to the importance of the historical Oz Kings to A Song of Ice and Fire by having Jaime and Tyrion brain fart? To explain why the errors still aren't corrected despite countless printings. It would mean that rather than winking at his own error when he had Penny confused Osmond and Oswald in A Dance with Dragons, Penny shook her head. She never. It was a man who came to us in Pentos. Osmond. No, Oswald. Something like that.
Don't you love it when George gives you two names?
Uh-huh. Sparrows, little fingers, arrows, little birds. There's a pattern here. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Little finger, little bird, sparrow. Yeah, tying the little bird with the little finger. Yep. Jerem was fleshing out the connection he was making by having Jaime and Tyrion misspeak in A Storm of Swords, while gleefully aware everyone would misread this. So what's the point of Kettle Black's given names and of the Oswald non-errors if they weren't errors? I think Jerem uses the fact that Kettle Black's clearly a nod to the history of Northumbria and to St. Oswald to ever so subtly tie Shadrach to that history, and thus connote that he's moving Ned's bones. How so? The very first time we read about the Kettle Blacks, they're simply but memorably described as unsavory. Sir Osmond Kettleblack and his equally unsavory brothers Osney and Osfrid. Which just so happens to be exactly what Brienne thinks about Hedge Knights when she meets Sir Illiffer and Creighton, scant pages before she meets the Hedge Knight Sir Shadrach. Hedge Knights had an unsavory reputation. When Brienne later thinks that some, who are looking for Sansa, may even be less savory than Sir Shadrach. Yeah, that is tying the unsavory right there with Shadrach. She's surely implying Shadrach himself is unsavory. Yes, she is, absolutely. Unsavory Shadrach is thus like the unsavory Kettleblacks, who are in turn, by virtue of their Oz names, like the historical Oswald. By transitive property, then Shadrach is thus associated with the story of the door being shut on St. Oswald's bones and Lindsay, with St. Oswald's skull ending up on Holy Island, which is consistent with the hypothesis that Shadrach moves at least Ned Stark's skull to the Quiet Isle. I think he's moving the whole bones. I think that is the honor guard. I think that's why they didn't suddenly vanish from the story. That's them.
Yeah.
That wraps it up. Sir Shadrach, the Mad Mouse of Shadyglen, is Lord Howland Reed of Greywater Watch, who is taking Ned Stark's skull, if not skeleton, probably skeleton, to the Quiet Isle when Brienne meets him, and who later heads to the Vale to attend to Sansa in league with his companions, Sirs Morgarth and Byron, who are also not as they seem. I've written about Morgarth, who we first meet as the elder brother of the Quiet Isle, before, and have completed a massive revision expansion of my arguments about who he is and how he fits in the secret history of House Martell, which I'll be posting sooner than later. Of course, he's already done that. After that, I'll be posting the long-delayed part 3. See Trouble with Dragons, episode 6. After that, I'll be posting the long-delayed part 3 of my series on Tyrek Lannister, contains still more regarding Shadrach and Howland, which is also complete. You may recall that in Tyrek Part 2, I argued that we've been given every reason to believe that Tyrek is now Sir Byron the Beautiful, one of Sir Shadrach's Howland's companions in the Vale, but concluded with a twist cliffhanger by saying that I nevertheless do not believe Byron is actually Tyrek. Of course he's not, he's Sandor. Well, the piece you've just read treated the idea that Howland Reed is masquerading as Sir Shadrach in isolation as interesting and important for its own sake. And while it is intentionally written to focus narrowly on that fact, I do admit that I revisited this topic with the hope that if I could hear and prove to a few skeptics that Howland Reed is, or at least very well could be, Sir Shadrach, although that could mean Littlefinger thinks that it is. Okay, anyway. So as part, okay, Littlefinger probably does think that he has Tyrek, but he doesn't.
Okay.
Because Howland Reed did a swap between Tyreek Lannister and the Hound. Somewhere he had stashed Tyrek, and in order, so we know that could be. We probably should go through his Tyrek theory.
Great and everything, but how is a 15-year-old by this time? Boy?
Yeah, that's the one thing that he goes through why George has hinted that Tyrek is actually Byron the Beautiful, and he's not, right? He's clearly Sandor, and right. see both Toodles and Blue Lemons on that, right? Blue Lemons hosted by Sweet Sunray, I believe. Anyway, yeah, we have to go through Sweet Sunray's arguments for that, and Toodles' arguments for that as our next task. Anyway, let's get through at least the rest of this paragraph, and then we can we can come back to the bonus high level tinfoil next time. Anyway,
Yeah.
and then maybe try and go through Blue Lemon's arguments for why the Hound is actually Byron the Beautiful.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Okay, because it ties in really well because it's a write up on why she thinks Shadrick is skin changers are a horse. Thoughts on characters with wet, shiny, watery eyes and eyes with pools of sapphires or molten lava. And J Pool being wordplay on Gene Pool.
Okay.
Well, she's asking us for that. We're kind of out of time, but characters with shiny water. I don't want to finish this paragraph in it. Can't go too far into this rabbit hole, but well, I do think that the eyes wet and shiny of Quaithe are supposed to tie her to Ashardane's laughing purple eyes. I'd have to go through and look at them all to be able to tell you what he's doing there. I haven't looked into that. Jane Pool being wordplay on Gene Pool. I do think that's that I think it's very interesting that George is calling attention to genes and eyes right as he keeps telling us that Ramsay and Roose look nothing alike except for their pale blue eyes, which can only be inherited from father to son and not.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, from mother to son, not from father to son, right? Because they're excellent. Because they're excellent characteristic.
Yeah, I do like the gene pool being there with both of them at the same time. I agree with you on that.
And yes, Kirsty, we also like that. Let's finish this paragraph and then we'll put the call today because we're actually on time. Right. Wyman, Miles, Wyla, Willis, Jerem uses the Y factor instead of X as the genetic marker for werewolves. Yeah, there's certainly been a was it the Dragon Riders of Pern series that focused on this concept of what if a magic gene was being passed on the Y chromosome from father to son, and that had been the intention of like male inheritance of kings, that they were passing a magic Y gene on. Kind of interesting that a female author came up with this idea of a magic Y gene. Anyway, that's your homework for next week, then, Richard and Old Judy.
Let me write that down.
All right. That's why it's plot important that John's mother is indeed Wyla.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Thoughts. So let me highlight this one if you're going to actually write this down. So wet, shiny, watery eyes with pools of sapphires, molten lava. Okay. That's the one you're writing down.
I got to write it down because when I go back to watch the videos, I'll let you put it. You putting it on the. Never mind. I can write it down when I go back and rewatch. Go ahead.
All right. We'll leave that one highlighted then.
Yeah, please.
Okay, we're wrapping up here. Well, the piece you just read treated the idea that Howland reads Masquerades to Shadrick in isolation and as interesting and important for its own sake. While it's intentionally written to focus narrowly on that fact, I do admit that I revisited this topic with the hope that if I could hear and prove to a few skeptics that Howland Reed is, or at least very well could be, Sir Shadrick, that epiphany might open some possibility that Shadrick being Howland is just one piece of a larger structure of related mysteries in the Vale and elsewhere involving persons who are currently feigning anonymity in a fashion akin to Lord Reed. Yeah, anyway. We'll come back to this PS section next time because we're over on time.
Oh yeah, definitely. We'll leave that up. I think Howland Reed is a very important piece of the puzzle, and I don't think George is going to wait till.
Yeah, and I'm totally sold. By the way, I pointed people at this before, but man, I'm just totally sold that because it doesn't make any sense for the honor guard to just disappear from the story. They got to be somewhere. I think this is them.
Yeah, especially with something as important as Ned Bone. I'm really liking the Tools read and the deep dive and the conversations that spring off of that. So this is probably
I think it's a good idea to try and lead through some of our favorite analysis and tinfoil and things. And so
the knowledge that gets dropped down in the comment section. So.
Let's plan on finishing this off and then maybe doing Blue Lemon's version of the same thing because it goes into more detail on Byron.
Yeah, definitely Blue Lemon. So,
let's do that. Let's do that as our
Okay.
next topic.
Hold on a second. And let me see what is Friday is. Friday's John 5.
Yes, that's the 63,
Okay.
the second
All right. Well,
63 chapter.
I appreciate everybody joining us today. I thought it was a really good discussion. But definitely some good knowledge in there, so we appreciate it.
I
Hopefully you
think
join us
I
on
think
Friday.
that's a as I said before. There's not a whole lot that happens in that chapter. It's not the shortest chapter in the world, but it's reasonable. So we may have a little bit extra time to chat some more on Friday.
All right, that'll work. That'll work. So hopefully y'all join us back here on Friday. Have the good rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of Hump Day, and y'all take care. Bye. Bye, Richard.
Have a good one.